Inception. Christopher Nolan's 2010 masterpiece ends with one of cinema's most debated moments. The film centers on Dom Cobb, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, who extracts secrets from people's minds within shared dream states. Cobb's totem is a spinning top that falls in reality, but spins endlessly in dreams. Throughout the film, the top spins with perfect, impossible physics in dreams versus realistic wobbling in reality. The final scene shows the top beginning to wobble and waver before cutting to black. Nolan has explicitly stated the ending's ambiguity is intentional, explaining that the point is Cobb no longer cares whether it's real or a dream. The real significance lies in how Cobb abandons the totem entirely to embrace his children, suggesting he's accepted that the distinction doesn't matter. Fans have debated for over 15 years whether the wobbling indicates the top is about to fall or continue spinning. The ending appears celebratory, with Cobb reunited with his children, but the unresolved question of reality versus delusion means either he's achieved genuine redemption or he's trapped in an eternal fantasy. This ambiguity fundamentally undermines the happy ending, leaving viewers uncertain whether to celebrate or feel unsettled. Truman Show. Jim Carrey's Truman Burbank finally discovers his entire world is a television soundstage and courageously exits to the real world. Truman spends his entire life unaware he's the star of a reality TV show watched by millions. Director Christof manipulates Truman's fears to keep him contained, notably his fear of water that prevents ocean travel. Truman eventually overcomes this manufactured terror and makes his way to the wall of the soundstage, exiting to presumably real-world freedom, while delivering his famous catchphrase, "Goodbye." Screenwriter Andrew Niccol revealed the original script was significantly darker, set in an alternate New York City rather than idyllic Sea Haven Island, with a version where innocent people were assaulted to test Truman's courage. Truman's escape appears triumphant, but ignores the severe psychological damage he sustained. A person raised in complete artificiality will struggle enormously with trust, identity, and distinguishing authenticity. His freedom is real, but his mind remains imprisoned by years of manipulation and betrayal. Eternal Sunshine. Michel Gondry's 2004 romance presents what seems like a beautiful second chance. Joel, played by Jim Carrey, and Clementine, played by Kate Winslet, are in a deteriorating relationship when Clementine uses a company called Lacuna to erase Joel from her mind. Heartbroken, Joel seeks the same procedure, but technician Mary discovers her own memory erasure and mails all patient files to clients. Joel and Clementine both receive recordings of themselves explaining why they wanted the other person erased, revealing harsh truths about their relationship. Despite hearing these damning recordings, that they hurt each other, and that Clementine will get bored and feel trapped, they decide to stay together anyway. The original ending was bleaker, explicitly showing they were destined to repeat mistakes endlessly. Clementine's final warning of, "You will," foreshadows inevitable failure, yet Joel accepts this fate with a simple, "Okay." The film's structure suggests Joel and Clementine may have undergone memory erasure multiple times, perpetually meeting for the first time. The final scene loops back to the beginning, implying cyclical tragedy. The ending celebrates love's persistence but reveals its terrible cost. Two people are knowingly embracing a relationship they've been told will fail, making the same choice that will lead them back to memory erasure. It's not a happy ending, but an unbroken cycle of heartbreak they can't escape. Brazil. Terry Gilliam's 1985 dystopian masterpiece presents what appears to be a romantic escape. Sam Lowry, played by Jonathan Pryce, is a low-level bureaucrat caught in a totalitarian state's web of error and conspiracy. He's arrested and brought to an interrogation room to be tortured by childhood friend Jack Lint, played by Michael Palin. The final sequence shows Sam and the woman Jill escaping together, driving into an idyllic countryside sunset in a pastoral dream. The revelation is devastating. The entire escape sequence was Sam's delusion, and he's actually still strapped to the torture chair. Jack and government official Mr. Helpman realize Sam has been permanently driven insane and abandon him in the chair. The film ends with Sam still physically restrained, mentally catatonic, smiling and humming the cheerful theme Aquarela do Brasil to himself. An alternate Love Conquers All cut exists that softens the ending, but Gilliam's original vision is the devastation. This represents the darkest possible happy ending because what appears triumphant is actually complete psychological annihilation. The torture didn't need to be physical, as totalitarian systems destroy the mind itself. Sam's smile in the chair is the most disturbing image in the film because he's not suffering anymore. He's gone. Snowpiercer. Bong Joon-ho's 2013 post-apocalyptic thriller builds toward revolution. The train circles frozen Earth with a class-stratified society where wealthy passengers live at the front and poor passengers suffer in the tail section. Curtis, played by Chris Evans, leads an uprising to reach the engine and confront creator Wilford. After brutal fighting, the door to the outside world opens due to explosions, and Curtis and the addicted Nam Goong sacrifice themselves. Two survivors emerge: Yona, a clairvoyant child, and Timmy, a young boy who is enslaved as an engine component. They see a polar bear in the distance, indicating life survived outside. The ending masks horrifying reality because two children, one a drug addict and one traumatized, are presumably alone in a frozen, barren world. They have no survival skills, no shelter, no community, and they're at the mercy of an apex predator. The film celebrates the destruction of systemic oppression, but the victors are functionally doomed. Freedom from the train means exposure to elements neither child can survive. The revolution succeeded tactically, but failed strategically, because the survivors gained liberty, but not life. Oldboy. Park Chan-wook's 2003 revenge masterpieces culminates in the protagonist finally getting the girl. Ode-soo is imprisoned for 15 years without knowing why, and after escape, he discovers his captor is former classmate Lee Woo-jin. Woo-jin's revenge motive stems from Dae-soo spreading rumors about Woo-jin's incestuous relationship with his sister in high school, leading to her death by self-inflicted harm. Throughout the film, Dae-soo falls in love with Mido, unaware she is his own biological daughter. Woo-jin reveals the truth about their relationship as final psychological torture. Dae-soo begs Woo-jin not to tell Mido, cutting off his own tongue as penance. The ending shows Mido finding Dae-soo in the snow and confessing her love. He smiles, suggesting a hypnotist's erasure worked, but his smile is ambiguous, wincing as well, suggesting the trauma cannot be erased, and he remains aware of the horror. Woo-jin dies satisfied, having achieved perfect revenge by forcing his psychological tormentor into an incestuous relationship. The ending presents romantic fulfillment while hiding a devastating truth. Even if hypnosis works and Dae-soo forgets, he's still in an incestuous relationship. The happy ending requires willing ignorance of terrible truths. Woo-jin achieves perfect revenge not through torture, but through forcing Dae-soo into complicity. The Lobster. Yorgos Lanthimos' 2015 absurdist dystopia presents a seemingly romantic breakthrough. Society requires all adults to be in romantic couples, and single people have 45 days to find partners or transform into animals. David, played by Colin Farrell, escapes to the Loners Rebellion faction, where romance is forbidden, and meets a short-sighted woman played by Rachel Weisz. Both share short-sightedness, making them compatible, and they develop a secret relationship and plan escape. The loner leader blinds the short-sighted woman as punishment for romantic betrayal. David and the woman reunite in society, but struggle to find commonality now that she's blind and he isn't. The final scene shows David retreating to a bathroom with a knife, implied to blind himself so he matches her. The film ends before confirming whether David goes through with self-inflicted harm. Love in The Lobster requires complete self-destruction. The happy ending celebrates devotion while depicting the terrifying sacrifice demanded by oppressive systems. Whether David blinds himself or not, the ending shows individuals so conditioned by control that they'll harm themselves for connection. By the way, if you're enjoying this content, I post videos like this regularly. Subscribing would really help me out. Shaun Dead. Edgar Wright's 2004 zombie romantic comedy presents a triumphant conclusion. Shaun, played by Simon Pegg, and Ed survive a zombie outbreak and escape to safety with the British Army's help. 6 months later, society has adapted, with zombies used as free labor and entertainment. The ending shows Shaun and his girlfriend Liz living together in his home. Ed has been transformed into a zombie but retains some sentience, and Shaun keeps him imprisoned in the garden shed. Shaun has trained the zombified Ed to not bite him, and plays video games with him, suggesting forced domestication of a once friend. Ed suggests he'd like to give Liz a little nibble, showing the monster remains dangerous and imprisoned. The happy ending requires the imprisonment and dehumanization of a beloved friend for amusement. Shaun's happiness is built on the suffering of his best friend. Ed exists in constant decay, kept as entertainment rather than released from suffering. The film frames this as comedic closure. Parasite. Bong Joon-ho's Oscar-winning thriller depicts a poor family infiltrating a wealthy household. The Kim family lives in a semi-basement apartment, stealing Wi-Fi and folding pizza boxes. Through deception, all family members become employees of the wealthy Park family. Chaos erupts when former housekeeper Moon Gwang reveals her husband has been hiding in the park's bomb shelter. Violent altercation ensues, and Ki-taek, the father, ends the life of the park's patriarch after being insulted about his poor man smell. Ki-taek flees and hides in the basement, where he remains permanently. Ki-woo fantasizes about working, earning money, buying the house, and freeing his father, but recognizes this is an impossible delusion. The ending for Ki-woo involves accepting that his father is permanently imprisoned in wealth's basement. The film portrays wealth as both fantasy and prison, something the poor will never obtain, but are forever trapped chasing. This bitter ending reveals that social climbing is structurally impossible. The elements of survival and imagination are rendered meaningless by economic reality. The film argues that capitalism creates inescapable basements, both literal and metaphorical. Whiplash. Damien Chazelle's 2014 musical thriller presents a triumphant climax. Andrew Neiman, played by Miles Teller, pursues elite jazz drumming under abusive instructor Fletcher, played by J.K. Simmons. Fletcher employs psychological manipulation, physical abuse, and emotional pressure to motivate Andrew. Andrew breaks his relationship with his girlfriend because drumming demands all his time and attention. He's expelled from the conservatory after publicly assaulting Fletcher. Months later, Fletcher invites Andrew to perform at a jazz festival, seemingly offering redemption. The final performance is revealed as another trap, as Fletcher deliberately gives Andrew unfamiliar music to sabotage him publicly. Andrew perseveres and wins the respect of Fletcher, achieving musical success but at tremendous cost. The victory requires that Andrew has sacrificed romantic relationships, education, mental health, and normal life. Andrew remains emotionally dependent on his abuser for validation. The happy ending celebrates artistic achievement while ignoring the cost. Andrew is now an unemployed, mentally damaged man whose greatest victory is impressing someone who tormented him. He's won the battle but lost his life, and the abuse cycle continues because Andrew seeks Fletcher's approval. Gone Girl. David Fincher's psychological thriller ends with seemingly perfect reconciliation. Amy Dunn, played by Rosamund Pike, stages her own disappearance and frames her husband Nick for her demise. She fakes evidence, manipulates media narrative, and presents herself as a victim to destroy Nick's life. Nick attempts to expose Amy's deception during a televised interview. Amy reveals she's pregnant with Nick's biological child, using samples from a fertility clinic he'd visited years earlier. Nick realizes that leaving Amy now would mean losing custody of their child, and appearing even more guilty. Amy has engineered the perfect trap because Nick must remain married to her to maintain any parental rights. The couple announces their pregnancy on television, with Amy victorious and Nick trapped. Both characters are morally compromised, but Amy's calculated cruelty ensures Nick's 18-year sentence. The film presents marriage as a calculated prison. The happy ending announcement masks a psychological and legal trap. Nick is forced to play the role of devoted husband, while his wife continues her psychological manipulation. The film suggests that toxic relationships can be locked in place by institutional systems, like custody law and social expectation. American Psycho. Mary Harron's 2000 satirical horror depicts a wealthy investment banker's increasingly extreme violence, apparently going unpunished. Patrick Bateman, played by Christian Bale, is a wealthy Manhattan investment banker living a double life. He ends the lives of colleagues, women, and workers, documenting his actions in graphic detail. In increasingly deranged sequences, Bateman commits more outrageous violence, including a chainsaw attack and shooting spree. Desperate, Bateman confesses everything to his lawyer via voicemail. The lawyer dismisses the confession as a joke, claiming Paul Allen, supposedly deceased, had dinner with him in London recently. Confused, Bateman returns to work and normal life, with colleagues debating whether Reagan is a harmless old man or psychopath. Director Mary Harron confirmed the violence was real, not imaginary, contrary to popular fan theories. The happy ending celebrates either perfect crime or complete psychological breakdown, and both interpretations are terrifying. The film suggests that wealthy men can perform violence without consequence, or that Bateman's reality has completely fractured. Either way, society remains fundamentally indifferent to his actions, and the ending's indifference is the horror. Passengers. Morton Tildom's 2016 science fiction romance presents a love story unfolding aboard a luxury spacecraft. Jim Preston, played by Chris Pratt, is alone on the spacecraft after a pod malfunction and faces contemplation of self-inflicted harm. Jim deliberately awakens Aurora Lane, played by Jennifer Lawrence, from hibernation to have a companion. Jim initially hides that he woke her up deliberately, but Aurora discovers the truth and is horrified. Aurora feels trapped and kidnapped because she was supposed to sleep for 90 more years. The happy ending requires Aurora to forgive Jim and choose to remain awake with him indefinitely. Jim offers to return Aurora to hibernation using the medical scanner, but she refuses, choosing to spend her remaining life with her captor. The couple announces their love and future together, masking the ethical violation and trauma bonding. The film disguises kidnapping as romance, and the happy ending requires her to accept and forgive this violation. The film presents imprisonment as inevitable because they're trapped together, so they might as well fall in love. Royal Tenenbaums. Wes Anderson's 2001 family dramedy reunites a fractured household of former child prodigies. Chaz, Margot, and Richie Tenenbaum were all child geniuses, real estate prodigy, playwright, and tennis champion. Years of betrayal and failure have rendered them all mediocre failures haunted by lost potential. Royal attempts reconnection using a fabricated terminal illness to manipulate the family. The ending shows the family reunited but fundamentally unchanged, accepting they'll never recapture greatness. Margot's play runs for 2 weeks and receives mixed reviews, and she accepts artistic mediocrity. Richie accepts unrequited love for his sister, saying they'll just have to be secretly in love. Chaz reconciles with his father, finally admitting he's had a tough year. The Tenenbaums' happy ending is actually resignation to failure. The film celebrates family connection while lamenting lost potential and wasted talent. The protagonists don't overcome their mediocrity, but simply learn to accept it with grace. The beauty of the ending masks its essential sadness about human potential unfulfilled. Toy Story. Pixar's 2010 epic presents an emotionally triumphant conclusion. Andy is 17 and preparing for college, needing to decide what to do with his toys from childhood. The toys end up accidentally at Sunnyside Daycare and must escape. Andy recovers the toys and initially plans to put them in the attic before college. Woody leaves a note suggesting Andy donate toys to Bonnie, a younger girl. Andy drives to Bonnie's house and reluctantly gives away all his toys, including his favorite Woody. He plays with the toys one final time with Bonnie, visibly emotional. Andy drives away alone to college as his childhood memories literally remain behind. The ending is technically triumphant because Andy makes the mature choice to let go, and the toys find happiness, but it represents permanent loss and the unavoidable passage of time. Growing up requires surrendering joy, and the film celebrates this necessity while breaking viewers' hearts. The ending is existentially sad because the loss of childhood is presented as inevitable and mature, yet deeply melancholic. If you found this interesting, consider subscribing so you never miss new content. Thanks for watching.